Everyone thinks they know this story. A 14-year-old girl vanishes, the whole city searches, and the man who took her is the monster on every screen. But what if the girl doesn't want to be found? What if the most dangerous place for her was the home she ran from, and the kidnapper is the only person who's ever been kind to her? Stick around, because nothing here is what the headlines say.
It's been 1 week since a 14-year-old girl vanished from a quiet Tokyo neighborhood, and the whole city is holding its breath. Her face is on every screen, every broadcast looping the same 2 words: missing, kidnapped. The police are treating it as an abduction. The parents are begging for her safe return, and the search just keeps tightening. But here's the thing, nobody watching at home knows. The girl they're all praying for isn't tied up in some basement. She's sitting calmly in her kidnapper's apartment, and she doesn't want to leave. She looks her captor dead in the eye and asks the question that should terrify her. Why does she trust the man who took her? And then she flips it. He's the one who's wrong, she says, because he's helping her hide from her parents. The walls of his room are papered floor to ceiling with secret photos of her, everyone taken without permission. A confirmed stalker's shrine. Most people would scream. She just smiles and says if he loves her that much, he'd never hurt her. Meanwhile, on the news, her devastated parents weep that they can't even sleep at night. Then she says the thing that cracks the whole story open. Her parents are only playing the part for the cameras. She gestures to the bruises and scars covering her arms and legs, every single one made by them. It's funny, right? She asks, like she's commenting on the weather. The boy in the mask just watches her, and quietly, the picture of who the real monster is starts to shift. She wonders aloud whether he'll be arrested now that she's all over the news, and he answers plainly, if the police find her, yes. So instead of panicking, he offers her something nobody expects. A game. Her eyes lift, curious, wary, and she repeats the word back to him. A game? In a room built out of his obsession with her, the masked stranger has just changed the rules entirely. The game has 2 sides: escape the police and escape her parents. And then she names the prize that makes it real. If they win, the 2 of them get married. She says it beaming, finger raised like it's the most natural plan in the world. He stares back, silent, his eyes unreadable above the mask, and the question hangs there in the air between them. What happens if they lose? She lies sprawled on the floor and lays it out, laughing at how insane it sounds. Marry the kidnapper she met yesterday, or kill herself if her parents or the police find her first. There's something wrong with me, she giggles like she's known it her whole life. But even so, she looks around at the walls, at the hundreds of stolen photos she never once noticed being taken, and something in her settles. This room alone tells her everything. For the first time in her life, someone told her they loved her. Out on the street, the masked boy walks alone and admits he doesn't know how he feels about any of it. There's really a girl in his house now, the one he'd only ever watched from a distance. It makes him uncomfortable in a way he can't name. He checks his reflection in his phone, reminding himself there's a limit to how long he can keep his face this blank. The hunter, it turns out, isn't nearly as calm as he pretends. He keeps replaying her words, marry him or die, and a quiet, unsettling thought creeps in. What if she proposed this whole thing as a way to give up on her own life? He pictures her smiling that empty smile and lands on something that chills him. If that's true, then she's exactly like him. 2 broken people who found each other in the worst possible way. A police officer stops him on the street, and for a heartbeat, everything could fall apart. But it's nothing, just an apology for wasting his time. The relief barely lands before the officer adds a kind, casual word. Don't walk around with your head down. It's okay to lift it a little. The boy thanks him and says nothing, but inside he knows the truth. He certainly has done something wrong. Out here there are cameras everywhere and people on every corner, and any move he makes could be the one that ends it all. He gets home, and she practically launches at the door to greet him, beaming, announcing she waited to eat and even waited to drink water until he got back. He tells her, baffled, that she could have just had some water. Her face falls for a second, and then he says he'll go make the food now. Just like that, she lights up, fists clenched, shouting, "Really? Yay!" And the masked boy sighs, completely outmatched by a girl who's thrilled by the smallest scrap of kindness. She begs to help cook, bouncing with excitement, calling him excited Oni-san when he agrees to let her chop the carrots. He turns to the sink and freezes. The way she's gripping that knife is all wrong, trembling, the blade wobbling as she leans in. "Wait," he says, sweat beading. "What's with that grip?" The knife comes down anyway, and somehow, chop after shaky chop, the carrots get cut. The food turns out massive. Hamburger, karaage, and curry, everything she asked for piled high. She wonders if she can really eat all of it, but she's glowing because she got to choose what she ate. It's the smallest freedom imaginable, and to her, it's a miracle. This is the first time in her life she realizes that someone is going to cook something just for her. Behind the mask, the boy watches her happiness swell over a plate of curry, and you can feel exactly how starved this girl has been. She tells him she wants to get close to him, really close, and he turns her down so calmly it stings. Always so composed, she pouts. So she tries again, hearts practically floating off her, insisting that kind of thing can't happen before marriage anyway. He just tells her to concentrate or she'll cut her fingers. Then she lands the punchline that makes his whole head jerk. Wait, is Oni-san not interested in 14-year-old girls? He sputters that of course he is, how rude, then catches himself because that's a wildly suspicious thing to insist on. She just grins, delighted to have rattled him. The two of them keep cooking, trading jabs in a kitchen that almost looks like a home, and for one warm, weightless moment, you forget entirely how they got here. The meal comes together, and she digs in, eyes sparkling, cheering that his cooking is amazing. He says he'll eat later, and her face crumples. He's so mean. Then she perks right back up when he mentions he bought pudding too. She nearly leaps out of her seat. Whatever darkness brought these two together, right now there's just a girl, a plate of food, and the simple joy of being fed. She asks, almost shy, if she's allowed to look forward to their meals together from now on. He doesn't answer right away. He just looks at her, the mask hiding whatever's crossing his face. Then he says it, of course. She breaks into the widest, most genuine smile and whispers thank you. And something passes between them that's bigger than a kidnapper and his victim. Watching her eat across the table, the boy makes a quiet vow. He wants to live for her sake. He decides he won't pry into her real feelings, won't push past the walls she's built. In that moment, he tells himself, if she ever truly needs him, he'll be there. She smiles back at him over her food, soft and unguarded. Two people who've never been wanted by anyone, learning what it feels like to matter. The news keeps grinding on, every channel still chewing over the missing girl, the police, the search. She notes flatly that they never seem to talk about anything else. Then she asks him for something small that lands like a thunderclap. Could he call her by her name? Since she arrived, she's only ever heard it from the television, never from him. He hesitates, mouth opening on her censored name and stopping short, and she lets him off the hook. It's okay, she says brightly. It'll be special if he's the one who makes it. He admits he's no good at names. The two of them sit there thinking, little clouds of concentration over their heads, and then her eyes go wide because she's thought of one, a name for him. She muses that maybe someday he'll call her Sachan, her name finally said out loud. Sachi. Then she spots the camera and asks if that's the one he used to photograph her. He says yes. She picks up the conversation light as ever, teasing that it must have been expensive, calling him Sachi here, with a little salute, fully at ease with the man who stalked her. The wall of stolen photos watches them both. He braces himself and finally brings it up. The pictures. Hasn't she ever thought it was disgusting? All those photos of her taken in secret? This entire room? She goes quiet. He admits to himself he expected this, that she'd finally see him for what he is. I thought so, her expression seems to say. But she tells him she's not in one of the pictures, and points to a lone photo on the wall, a city skyline at dusk. He asks if she likes the sunset. She looks at it for a long moment, then says something that cuts deeper than any insult. More like, I hate it. Behind the mask, his eyes narrow because he understands exactly why. The sunset, he explains, reminds him of the past. A moment from 10 years ago he's never been able to shake. It's been hanging on that wall ever since. He doesn't know her whole story, and she doesn't know his, but standing in front of that photo, they both vaguely understand what happened to the other. She asks quietly what that moment was. Two strangers circling the same old wound. A memory surfaces, a younger version of him scolded, told that people can't live their lives all alone no matter how hard they struggle. He'd snapped back that he'd live alone just fine. He got smacked for it, told to think about who'd been raising him. Those words, the older voice warned, get embedded in your mind when you're all by yourself. He never thought he'd understand them. But now, he says, he's not sure those bad memories are useless after all. He'd still rather they'd never happened. Then he says her name, Sachi, and she lights up at the sound of it. She laughs, teasing him, that it'd be better if bad things didn't happen at all. For two people built out of pain, it's a strangely hopeful thing to share. She squints at him, baffled, and blurts the question, is he really only 14? He's offended, says she's the rude one. She explains the way he talks, just sounds more grown up. He pats her head gently, and she goes downcast, asking what part of her seemed childish. It was a compliment, he tells her, and she doesn't quite know what to do with kindness that doesn't have a hook in it. He looks at her, and the questions pile up quietly. She had no choice but to become self-sufficient. Did she cut her own hair? Did they hate her that much? In the bath, he washes her hair, asking if any spot hurts, apologizing when his hand brushes a tender place. She tells him she's all right. Thank goodness, he breathes, and the tenderness of it almost hurts to watch. He holds up the razor and asks if she's scared. She just tilts her head, smiling. Aren't you scared? He presses. That I could hurt you with this? He drops it. Never mind, sorry. Why would I be scared? She asks, like the thought never even occurred to her. And he realizes there's something he's always wondered about this girl who flinches at nothing. She tells him she's not scared anymore. That's why she can laugh about it. He says that's not something to laugh about. Then he turns it back on her, gentle but sharp. If she's not scared of razors, then isn't her so-called fear of shampoo a lie? Not the pain of being hurt? She stays calm about that. It's the small, ordinary things she can't handle, and he's starting to see why. She stammers out a thank you, blushing, hiding behind her hand, saying she doesn't know why, but it all feels a little awkward. He muses, deadpan, that he's somehow fine seeing her naked. It's everything else that's strange. Then he smiles and says, all right. Two people fumbling through the most basic intimacy like it's a foreign language, because for both of them, it is. He reflects that because he never says his real feelings, he's never expected anyone else to either. Sachi hasn't told him what she truly thinks of him, so he won't tell her either. It's a quiet pact of mutual hiding. Then she comes bounding out of the bath soaking wet, and he yelps that she'll catch a cold, dry off properly. She just grins and shouts for Oni-san to come cut her hair already. The boy admits the bitter truth he carries. This happiness won't last. Sachi can't see it yet, but if she ever left this room, there are plenty of guys out there who'd help their girlfriend out of pity. He could be replaced in a heartbeat. But that's the thing she doesn't understand. She doesn't have anyone. She only has him. This kidnapper, he thinks, was the first person who ever reached out a hand to her. He crouches and extends it toward her now, and she looks up from the floor, but it cuts both ways, he realizes. Sachi isn't the one clinging to him, he's the one clinging to her, and he knows it. He's the one holding on for dear life, he admits. The words from his past echo back. Humans can't live all alone. He reaches for her hand in the dim light. That moment, he thought he'd never truly grasp what those words meant. Now he's living inside them. The news rolls on, the screen full of a stranger's face that happens to be hers, and she sees a TV cooking segment about a couple-themed restaurant. A date, she thinks. Her eyes go wide and dreamy. She spins to him, fists clenched. Oni-san, she wants to go on a date. He blinks. Huh? He's hesitant. With all those security cameras out there, the thought of being traced makes him want to say no. Her face falls. Then she rallies, eh-heh-hehing that all the news about her is finally dying down. So they can't, huh? She giggles that if they got caught, they'd never be able to get married. He goes quiet. Then, defeated by her logic and her hope, he says, okay, sure. Let's go on a date, he says. But it has to be somewhere quiet, somewhere without many cameras. Huh? She breathes, hardly daring to believe it. There's one condition, he adds. Condition? She echoes. And then she's practically glowing, vibrating with joy, gasping, really? As the masked boy agrees to give her the most normal, dangerous thing in the world. His condition comes wrapped in something childish, a pinky swear. She repeats it back, unsure. Then a spell to make sure he keeps the promise, he says, crossing his finger with hers. He recites the old rhyme about what happens to liars. She listens, wide-eyed, asking what a spell even is. This girl who somehow missed every ordinary piece of childhood. She turns the rhyme over in her head and asks the literal question. So if Oni-san breaks his promise, he'll have to suffer the punishment in the chant. He closes his eyes and says no. The whole thing is a children's game, a bit of make-believe, and she's treating it like a binding contract. It's funny, and it's heartbreaking at once, because no one ever taught her how to just be a kid. He surprises her with old clothes from about 10 years ago, boyish things, stored away all this time instead of thrown out. She pulls them on, cap and all, and declares her disguise complete. They're warm, she notes. He goes quiet at the sight of her in his childhood clothes, murmuring that for some reason they were never tossed. She beams, I see! And a strange, tender history hangs unspoken in the room. Out in disguise, she teases that Oni-san doesn't really listen to her either. Is he even hearing himself? He admits he's not much of a listener. But, she says, if the two of them are happy, then it's okay. The way she says it stops him. It means they don't have to go searching for happiness anymore. Is that so? He murmurs, and you can feel the words land somewhere deep. They wander until she spots a little shop, asking what it is. Over there. A sweet shop, he tells her. Sweet shop? She repeats, wonder all over her face. Welcome! The voice calls from inside, and she instinctively ducks behind him, hiding. Even something this small, this safe, sends her scrambling for cover. An old granny appears, kind-faced, telling the young man and the little boy to take a look around. She's mistaken Sachi for a boy. He says it's too bad they're busy. The granny says lately the kids haven't been coming around, that it makes her happy to finally see some customers. Times are different now, she sighs. Dangerous lately. Haven't you heard? It's been all over the news, and the masked boy's blood runs cold. The granny asks if the two of them are siblings. They seem so close. Something like that, he says. She talks about how rarely children visit anymore, how good it feels to have company after so long. Then she circles back to the danger, to that incident, the one all over the news. The very story they're living inside, spoken aloud by a sweet old woman who has no idea who's standing in her shop. She means the kidnapping, the granny says. That poor girl. The boy goes silent, eyes hard above the mask. The girl's parents must be miserable, she adds. What kind of person would do such a thing? He must be terrible. Sachi, in disguise, watches the boy who took her get called a monster to his face, and says nothing. Sachi suddenly opens a snack right off the shelf and he hisses why she did that. They haven't paid yet. Huh? She says, genuinely lost. You can't just open things in a store without exchanging money, he explains. She blinks. Eh? Something? Did she do something wrong? The most basic rule of the world, and nobody ever taught it to her. The granny calls her a strange child, asking if the boy's never been shopping before, and he apologizes, says they'll pay, but she waves it off. It's fine, take whatever you'd like. He's stunned. They couldn't just take it for free, he protests. The shop's closing down soon anyway, she says warmly. So the goods are all getting cleared out either way. Outside, the boy quietly tells Sachi not to go opening things in stores after this, okay? Ah, she says. He sighs that it can't be helped then. She apologizes. It was her first time shopping, so she didn't know about money, about always having to pay. The weight of that sentence sits there. A 14-year-old who has never once been allowed to buy something for herself. They keep walking and pass two girls in middle school uniforms, and one of them is Sachi's own uniform. The boy stiffens, hides her. They slip by, and the girls glance back. Just then, one of them turns, frowning, and the other asks what's wrong. The disguise holds, but for a second, the whole fragile escape balances on a knife's edge. He tells her she's not a nuisance, thanks her for putting up with the disguise, and she laughs that she guesses she wasn't very good at hiding how she felt. He says thanks for that. Then he says something that puzzles them both, something like that never used to bother Sachi before. Then why? She asks. Why does it hurt now? And neither of them quite has the answer yet. The pain confuses her. Why does that hurt so much right now, she wonders. She's been through far worse at school, been called far crueler things. Her feet keep moving, and the boy says the things she's never heard before. That pain, the small human ache of being misunderstood, is normal. Normal? She echoes, like it's a word in another language. That kind of pain is normal, he repeats. If she'd been let off easy, if she'd never known real pain, she might have felt relieved not knowing what real pain even was. He says it almost to himself, but there's an ego in it, he admits. All he really wants is to make Sachi happy. She covers her face, and he thinks maybe she'd feel relieved never knowing what real pain is. If that would make her happy, fine. But he has no idea how. All he knows is that he wants her to be happy. And then the doubt creeps in. Maybe that's just his own ego talking. Two people who never learned how to love, trying to anyway. She tells him, in her middle school uniform, that she's really happy right now. That thanks to him, she can feel things she never used to feel. But she wonders, can she really be happy with this? Can someone like her? She asks the questions that have haunted her for 14 years. What if she deserved everything that happened to her? He tells her she'll be all right. From now on, she's allowed to be happy. She's already suffered an entire lifetime's worth of hardship. The girls she envies, the wealthy ones in big houses eating good food. There are plenty of happier people alive anyway. Yeah, maybe, she says softly, and the bleakness underneath the words is staggering. She thinks about the people who supposedly have it all, and the masked boy reminds her. They're not criminals, but they're not special either. Theirs is just normal happiness. Then he says it. Say, Sachi, if living with him is the true punishment for what he's done, would she still be happy then? He asks it staring straight ahead, half afraid of the answer. A flashback rips the warmth away. Sachi's classmates crowded around her desk, sneering. Looks like she's got even more scars. Is she doing it for attention? Pretty hilarious. One laughs. Of course, she'll ask who did it, and no one will say a word. No one will object. And then the camera shows the desk, the single word carved into it. Die. That creep should just die, right? The voices jeer, scratching the word deeper into the wood. Sachi sits there, hollow, while the laughter rings around her. No one will tell her who did it. No one will stop them. The hell she escaped from finally has a face, and it's worse than anything the news imagined. Before she met Oni-san, she says, happiness didn't exist. She stands in her uniform, small and still, hands pressed together. That's just how her life was. No warmth, no safety, no one. Just the slow erasure of a girl everyone decided to forget. This happiness won't last, she's sure of it. So the world she knew cracks like glass around her. There's no reason, she thinks, for someone like her, someone who couldn't even live a normal life, to live happily ever after with Oni-san. The plates on the table blur. She laughs a small, broken laugh, and you can feel her bracing to let the whole thing go. She tells him she'd thought she'd rather end her happiness than let it slip away on its own, that if it ended on her terms, it would feel eternal. The boy says her name. She keeps talking, that quiet logic of despair, and he watches her come apart in front of him. Then he raises his hand. She flinches, certain it's a blow coming. Is he going to hit me? You're not mad at me? She asks, bracing. No, he says. I'm not mad, so she won't do something like that again. He's just scolding her. He tells her she has to cherish herself more. The hand she feared wasn't a fist after all, and something in her chest doesn't know how to process that. He looks at her, steady, and lays it out plainly. He's just scolding her. She needs to value herself, so she won't ever do something like that again. You want to marry me, right? He says, almost pleading. Then please trust me a little more. And if you ever feel like you want to disappear, tell me right away. She'd only ever met selfish people, she realizes. People who took, who hurt, who used her. But Oni-san scolded her for her own sake. And he's living for her sake, too. I see, she thinks, the understanding settling over her like something warm. The kidnapper the whole world calls a monster is the first person who ever put her first. He promises to make her wishes come true for the rest of her life, and her eye goes wide, reflecting him back. She'd only ever known people who wanted something from her. But this is different. The masked stranger who stole her away is the only one who ever lived for her sake, and for the first time, she lets herself believe it. He tells her they should head home soon. It's almost evening, they'll get caught in rush hour, and her hat blew off so she should pull her hood up instead. Okay, she says. He fusses that it'd be a real problem if they got busted now. Then she grins and says, hey, they can eat all those sweets when they get home. Okay, she says again, softer, and the word means more than it should. Back home, she grabs his sleeve and asks if they can take more pictures to add to the wall. Sure, he says. She wants to transform this room, the one papered with photos of her miserable past, into something new, together with him. Someday, she thinks, they'll paint this one room with happiness. And someday this room, filled with happiness, will be... In the kitchen, Sachi ties on an apron and even does her hair up, asking if Oni-san is really going to let her make pancakes. Of course, he says. She's not sure she can. It's basically just mixing and baking, right? She saw it on TV and it looked awesome. The girl who never got to be a child is finally getting to make a mess in a kitchen, and it's the sweetest thing. She remembers the pancakes she saw, all colorful and bright, fruit and cream piled on top. They can do that with some canned fruit, he offers, holding up a tin of white peaches. Really? She gasps. Then she barrels ahead. Say, Oni-san, if they do well this time, can they open a pancake shop? He says he doesn't really think that's possible, for many reasons, but he doesn't say no to the dream. She cracks an egg straight into oblivion. Crush. And stares at the wreckage. You crushed it, he says. She blinks. I did? Let me show you, he sighs, tapping the next egg lightly until it gives, then separating the shell by hand. Whoa, that's the real deal, she marvels, dazzled by something most kids learn at 5. Even an eggshell is a brand new world to her. Watching her hum and fumble through it, the boy thinks maybe this way of life isn't so different from making sweets. You follow a recipe, you mix, you wait. But tossing the kidnapping of a young girl into the batter makes the whole thing indefinite, unstable, off the page. It's just another recipe, he tells himself, a way to make life seem like a game of playing house. And he knows exactly how fragile the illusion is. He has her pour in the sugar. Okay, she says. And she keeps pouring and pouring. Seems like she put in a lot of sugar, he notes dryly. Then the harder truth, he's the one folding all of this into a fake, unrealistic prank he's playing on Sachi. The two of them sit on the floor as the batter rests, cooking together, almost like a family, both of them quietly aware that none of it is supposed to last. It's not a promise, he thinks. It's heavier than that. And in order to keep on living this way, the two of them are going to have to hang on for dear life. Sachi's eyes shine across from him, trusting, hopeful. He looks at her and feels the weight of what he signed them both up for. A happiness held together by sheer will, one slip from collapsing. The pancakes come out lopsided and a little burnt, and she frets that the ones on TV were rounder. Isn't that what it's supposed to look like? He says. Good enough for a first try. It looks fine to him. Besides, he's sure it tastes delicious. At least try it first. She takes a bite, smiles, and says, okay, if he says so. Two people eating crooked burnt pancakes like it's a feast, because they made it together. This is the first time she's ever made something for herself, she realizes. And as hard as it was, that's exactly what Sachi said earlier. Everyone always thought her cooking was terrible. She laughs. They'd throw it in the trash. He says that's not something to laugh about. You must have hated cooking class at school, he murmurs. But, he adds, he really doesn't care what they thought, and the casual loyalty of it lands like a gift. She made something for herself, the boy thinks, just like she said, the first time she's ever done it. However, the simplicity of making sweets isn't comparable to how complicated everything really is. He looks at the lopsided pancake, then at her. The metaphor he's been clinging to is starting to fray, and he knows it. She gasps that they forgot to take a picture. She wants a photo of the two of them eating pancakes, like the ones she saw people posting online. Ah, he sighs as she grabs the camera. Now say cheese. Let's face this way, Oni-san, she chirps, swinging the lens around. For all the danger pressing in from outside, in here, she's just a girl wanting a happy photo. A video plays, an animal mask, a cheerful voice. Nice to meet you, everyone. Then it twists. The masked figure spreads its arms and announces it's the one responsible for the kidnapping. It boasts about loving the attention, about a dream of building a harem of beautiful girls. The comments flood in. Disgusting. What a creep. As some attention-seeking imposter hijacks Sachi's tragedy for clout. Sachi watches the screen and asks, baffled, who that imposter is. The fake rambles that his dream won't be fulfilled by kidnapping just one girl. Do you think he's into abductions? She wonders. Probably just doing it for attention, she figures. Then she gets quietly furious. That's gross, Oni-san. You're not that kind of person. And the boy notes how rare it is to see her actually mad. It's rare for her to get angry, he says. She fires back. Of course she'd be mad at something like this. The fake video has racked up nearly 500,000 views, strangers asking if XXX-san is even still alive, saying no child should go through that. Look at this, he tells her. Because of that one stupid video, all of this happened. The panic, the spectacle, the world turning her pain into content. They pull up the leaked photos, even her grade school field day pictures, scraped from somewhere and plastered online. Whoa, they even got hold of this, he says. They're all from school, she realizes. Yearbook shots, probably posted by a classmate. Then she does the most Sachi thing imaginable. She grins and offers to show him her own grade school photos. I look cute in them too. She clicks again and her face changes. A page titled Pray for XXX-chan's Safety. It says pray for safety, she reads, confused. Her classmates on camera claiming they're gathering eyewitness information so she can come home safe, praying she escapes her abductor. They call the kidnapper evil, and Sachi, watching the people who carved DI into her desk play the grieving friend, just stares. She thinks they're a bunch of idiots anyway. They shouldn't talk when they don't know the facts, assuming her family was loving, assuming Oni-san is evil. They need to stop pretending they know her. They're acting like heroes just to feel good about themselves after all. All of them. The hypocrisy of the people who broke her, now mourning her on camera, is almost too much. She declares her #1 happiness is being with Oni-san, flabbergasting him. She's living with him no matter what happens, so stop saying weird things, she shouts. Face red. He just stares. Then, quietly, he starts to laugh. Foo, foo, foo. Why are you laughing? She demands. And for once, the masked boy is the one caught completely off guard by how fiercely she means it. You're welcome, he says, and she goes quiet, blushing. She doesn't know if she likes him or hates him, she thinks. But she's pretty sure she likes him more. He got her good with that one. There's one thing she's noticed while living with him, she realizes. And then a worry flickers. Did Oni-san laugh because she got mad at him? Accepting this life with him, she understands, makes her abnormal too. That's why she's sure society will never understand them. The two of them, by the world's measure, don't fit anywhere. She's made her peace with it. There's no other choice but to stick it out, she thinks. And it's resolve and resignation tangled into one. It seems everyone's idea of happiness is different from hers, she reflects, watching water fill a glass, and she wonders if that's normal. The two of them sit side by side against the wall. "I'll make you happy for the rest of your life," he promises. And the line that breaks your heart wide open. No one, in her entire 14 years of living, has ever told her the things she had always wanted to hear. And now the only person who finally did is the one the whole world is racing to take away.